Since ancient times, India has been known for its beautiful handcrafted textiles. Quilts are an essential element of this textile history. Made from recycled materials using age-old methods, quilt makers transform old cloth into objects of beauty. The Quilts of India by Patrick J. Finn. Quilts are an important part of the material culture of India, whether made for use in the home or to signify religious austerity. They are pervasive in homes across the subcontinent and commonly used by itinerant monks. The first traces of quilting come from ancient relics discovered in China, Egypt, India, and Persia. One Indian example of a quilt, located in the museum in Mathura, Uttar Pradesh, is depicted on a pink sandstone sculpture from the Kushana period, where the Buddha is shown wearing a patchwork robe or sangati. The techniques of quilt construction are primarily the same the world over, sewing bits of cloth together to form a single unified whole. The first quilt shown here is a patchwork construction and forms the top of the quilt from various fabric pieces sewn together to create a solid panel. A solid top panel of a single fabric or large connected panels that are quilted, embroidered, or both distinguish the whole cloth construction seen here. Applique is a decorative design made of one or more materials sewn on top of one another to form the quilt top. And finally, the combination technique blends appliqued, patched, or whole cloth methods. The materials used in quilt making include white, threadbare saris, dhotis, and fabric remnants from other sewing projects, and pieces of recycled clothing. The fabrics are cotton, silk, linen, and various blends in polyesters. The 16th century export quilts were made from cotton, linen, jute, or raw silk. Today, the embroidery floss is cotton, silk, polyester, or lightweight yarn. Each quilt is an intimate reflection of the life of the quilt maker. Quilts were born of necessity from the ingenuity of women utilizing available materials. For example, as a Rabari bride-to-be sews a gudri to take to her groom's home, she sings, "Who has stolen my gudri?" with the priceless tassels and bells. Men have often played a role in quilt making throughout India's history. Interestingly, they have focused on whole cloth quilts and to some degree applique. Both the men and women of the Khatri communities, professional dyers, excel in making cloth for quilts. Ajrak, Shirak, and in earlier centuries, chintz. The value of cloth is considered in three ways. The first is the pragmatic or practical value. Weaving cloth is a painstaking and labor-intensive process, from cultivation to finished fabric. This gives it value derived from the actual materials, the manpower, and the time involved. The second is the perceived value. The rarity of a textile contributes to its perceived value, as in the case of silk that began as a luxury item for the elite. Additionally, Its religious association increases its merit as ritual cloth when, for instance, it is worn as sanctified clothing, used to cover holy books, and fashioned into canopies, burial shrouds, and enclosures for consecrated spaces. The third is tensile value of cloth. The strength of woven cloth implies its ability to be manipulated, indicating its capability to be recycled. The author Stephen Hyler talks about Indian ecology and says, "Nothing is wasted in India. Everything is used. Every aspect of every object, worked on, worked with, stretched to its limit and made useful. The environment is the base and all adapt to it." To understand Indian quilt making, it is beneficial to grasp the process of recycling worn-out cloth. The rags and tatters are valuable within the context of the Indian environment. This stems from the deeply rooted socio-religious customs and ritualistic tribal dynamics that affect the transformation of the cloth. Stella Comrich wrote, "The materials of the kanta are rags and their threads. Joined afresh, these tatters are given a new wholeness." She describes quilt making as the rite of restitution of wholeness. The words rags, rites, and restitution are rich with cultural implications. One quilt is found everywhere in India in spite of the extraordinary mixture of traditions, cultures, and religions, and that is the utility quilt. It is found in homes from the verdant Himalayan foothills to the searing, dry deserts of Rajasthan, and from the tropical beaches of the southwest to the dusty villages along the northern plains. This modest, unadorned utility quilt goes by different names in different languages. In Karnataka, it is called kaudi. In Gujarat, it is known as gadra. In Rajasthan, it is called gudri. And in Goa, they call it godati. From one village to another, the gudri is not always the same item. Some villagers will call the simple utility quilt a gudri, while others intend it to mean a more elaborate quilt. The quilts of Goa. There are three types of quilts in Goa: the godati, the manhe, and the kapiali. The godati is a light quilt used to stave off the chilly mountain air or cool sea breezes. The manhe is used over and under babies and made to withstand numerous washings. The kapiali has multiple uses as an asan, chair, or table cover and protective wrapper. Godati are constructed in two ways: piecework and a folded sari method. The folded sari method is accomplished by folding an old sari into approximately 80 inches by 40 inches, creating 4 to 6 layers. A contrasting 1-inch border may be added and the entire piece quilted. Various designs using the running stitch comprise the quilting: concentric circles, spirals, or quarter roundels highlighting the corner. The piecework construction varies depending on whether it is hand-sewn or machine-stitched. Both methods often use a 3-inch square as the basic element, although other shapes are sometimes used. Most of the piecework quilts are 2 layers with a patched top and a solid backing. As we have seen, the geometric designs are widespread. A noteworthy variation is a curve carved out of one side of a square. This element creates a host of options. Stars, pinwheels, and hourglasses originate from the rudimentary design units that create more complex structures. There is also a remarkable resemblance of some quilts to the traditional Goan windows made from thin polished oyster shells set in latticework. There are many representational designs on Goan quilts. The rooster, a popular image in clay seen on many rooftops, is a popular Godati design. The silent butterfly and the croaking frog both herald in the yearly monsoon. An outing to the market reveals other motifs like eggplants, pineapples, and cashews. Also, a candy wrapped in twisted foil is a favorite design and is used on quilts as a stylized repeat. Sometimes, religious symbols are abstracted. The Catholic cross, the Hindu oil lamp, Muslim moon and star, plus offering baskets are created in patchwork with varying renditions. It is easy to imagine that each person in India has at least one quilt. So this presentation can only be an introduction to the Quilts of India.